very disappointing that you have political leaders in Brazil who are willing to repeat these lies.
Senator Tronic said worse than supporting the lobby in the industry lobby was supporting crime. Can we say by that that supporting an industry that kills people, it's not like, oh, my hair got dry, oh no, my skin got wrinkles now, it's death, taking people about 50 years old, like dying and leaving their families on poverty, without money, without their loved ones. During a century, we know that. Can we say that supporting the industry lobby is the same as supporting crime too?
Well, yeah, but you know, this argument, the industry, I mean, this is another routine industry argument that's been used for decades. And that is, if you don't allow them to have free access to the market and sell as much of their products as they can and make as much money as they can, that will increase crime. And that argument has been made against every tobacco control policy I've ever seen. I got involved in this issue here in California in 1978 when there was the first effort to pass a state law restricting smoking in public places. And one of the big themes of the tobacco companies was that if this law passed, which created, it wasn't even smoke-free, it created no smoking areas, that there would be an increase in crime and that police would have to stop arresting murderers and start arresting smokers. And, you know, they defeated the law then, but since then we've had increasingly strong smoke-free laws all over the state and all over the country. That in every single case, the tobacco companies have claimed it would increase crime. We've now had these laws on the books for some of them for 20 or 30 years, and there was no increase in crime. You know, here in San Francisco a couple of years ago, we became the first city in the country to ban the sale of all flavored tobacco products. The tobacco companies ran ads saying that if that law passed, there would be an increase in smuggling, an increase in crime, police would be taken away from arresting murderers to arrest e-cigarette users. It's all the same arguments you're hearing in Brazil. It never happened. You know, the law passed. The police are still, like, you know, doing their usual police thing. The only thing that changed is the sales of flavored tobacco products virtually disappeared in San Francisco. And the level of use of those products, especially among kids, dropped, and the tobacco companies made less money. And, you know, it's very disappointing that you have political leaders in Brazil who are willing to repeat these lies. The tobacco companies are very aggressive in reaching out to politicians. I don't know the details in Brazil, but I can tell you that every politician who's aggressively advocated the industry's positions that's been dug into ended up, if you dug deep enough, you found some kind of connection.
Barra Torres, or our current president for Anvisa, and the one that will judge the new process about the e-cigarette, he was stating that Brazil would gonna have a lot of public pressure and would have to make a point, a very strong point, to convince people otherwise, and no one was talking about it. The report from Anvisa, made out of many researchers, qualitative researchers, a very mature report that would need to be formally, approved after public consultation, was okay. And now Senator Soraya Tronic appears every other day in the news, mobilizing population to say that we need to know what's inside the e-cigarette because they come from China. And I made a quick research, and the most sold in the streets here in Rio de Janeiro is Ignite. Ignite is licensed by European Union. It's not from China. They are sold here and they are imported from where they are legalized. Do you want to say something about this?
I'm not an expert on the e-cigarette supply chain, but I can tell you that China makes most of the e-cigarettes sold in the world, even if they're sold by other companies. And, the question of what's in the product, I don't think it's that important, because if you look at the research which has been done on product toxicity, it turns out that there's not that much difference between these different products. A colleague of mine here at the University of California, San Francisco, has studied the effects of e-cigarette aerosol exposure on blood vessels. Your blood vessels are always getting bigger and smaller, minute to minute, second to second, to adjust changes in the need for blood flow and maintain your blood pressure. And that process, which is very important to being healthy, and also if you screw it up, it predicts developing heart disease later. He compared Juul e-cigarettes, which is a fourth generation pod system, with earlier tank systems, with Marlboro cigarettes, with marijuana cigarettes, with nicotine-free cigarettes, with THC-free marijuana cigarettes, with marijuana vaporizers. And you know what? In terms of the effect, the adverse effects on blood vessels, they're all the same. And not that different from things like diesel exhaust and forest fire smoke. And so, the idea that minor differences between different e-cigarettes matter is just probably not true. You're inhaling an aerosol of ultrafine particles. You take propylene glycol and vegetable glycerin, which are fine to eat, but when you heat it up and aerosolize it and inhale it, that has all kinds of disruptive effects on the cells that line your mouth, on your gums, on your airways. Those particles are so small, they get right into your blood vessel, into your blood, into cells, trigger inflammatory processes, and other things like the flavoring agents, like chocolate, cocoa oil, or cinnamon oil, which are great to eat, but if you aerosolize them and inhale them, they tear up your lungs. And so, I'm sure it's true that the differences in the details of how an e-cigarette is made probably have some effect on its toxicity. But the fact is, the basic design of them, where you're inhaling an aerosol of ultrafine particles and nicotine, that is 80 or 90% of the badness. And so why take these dangerous products and introduce them legally into the Brazilian market when Anvisa's been doing a good job under the current regulatory scheme of keeping them out? The only benefit of legalizing them is to increase profits for the multinational tobacco companies.
That's always the point. And let's exercise a case scenario. If the electronic cigarettes or heated tobacco gets in every corner legally, do you think it will protect the kids? what do you think it will be the natural history of Brazilian health?
Oh, if Anvisa changes the regulation to allow these products in the country legally, you're just going to see use explode up to the same levels which are observed in other countries which allow them, and with all the associated disease and death. I mean, it's obvious. You know, again, if you look at the countries where they have prohibited e-cigarette, illegal sale of e-cigarettes, there is a little bit of e-cigarette use because the companies smuggle them in. But it's, you know, a tenth or a 20th of what you see in countries that have more laissez-faire policies. And, you know, here in the United States, the FDA has theoretically been regulating e-cigarettes, you know, for about almost 10 years, and there's no meaningful regulation of these products. You know, there's thousands of illegal products on the market. The FDA tried to prohibit the sale of Juul, which is, you know, that was the one that a hugely innovative product that was much more addictive. And Juul sued them, and FDA backed off. Now, theoretically, you know, FDA is negotiating with Juul, but the fact is they're still out there. You can still buy them legally. They're still selling them all over the place.
Once they're out, they never go back because they have a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, and so you have currently in Brazil an effective policy. It's protecting public health. Brazil also has very low smoking rates, thanks to the many other tobacco control policies that have been implemented over the years in Brazil. And so
they say it's because of education campaign. Only, not the empower measures.
Well, education is important. You know, it's an important component of this, but the more important component is things like graphic warning labels, taxes, restrictions on where you can use the product. Those are getting smoking out of entertainment media. Those are the things that make a big difference. And again, you know, if you think about the position that the tobacco industry is advocating in Brazil, it's like you have a successful policy which has kept the problem under control in Brazil. Let us come in and start promoting and selling these things all over the place like we do in other countries where they become a huge problem. But tell people not to use them or tell kids not to use them. It just doesn't work. You know, it's much better to not get the disease in the first place than to say, we're going to introduce smallpox into the country and tell people to, like, be careful not to get it. I mean, it's just crazy. And again, you've got to ask the question, why are the tobacco companies pushing for this? They're pushing for it because they want to increase sales.
Yeah, they say because they are not interested in making any harm. They will lower the nicotine levels. They can do that. They can do this, and everything will be okay.
Yeah, well, it's like you're saying, let's have a bank, hire a bank robber to protect the banks. I mean, Brazil has a good, effective, strong regulatory environment right now.
Do you listen this? This compliment from other people in the world, because they say they are laughing at us.
That's just not true. You know, the people I know who care about public health are impressed with Brazil. Brazil, the FDA has like over 1,000 employees, and Visa, I don't remember the number, but it's very
low. They work a lot.
And Visa has actually implemented much more effective policies than what we have here in the United States. Brazil is viewed among public health people as a leader.
We have the stray cat complex from colonies, you know, from being colonized. And we always think that they are doing better in other countries than we do here.
Let's put it this way. If the United States was doing as well as Brazil was in terms of controlling e-cigarettes and other tobacco products, I would be a very happy person. if we were doing, if I could snap my fingers and get all of Brazil's policies implemented here in the United States, we would be so much better off. And it's insane to go to Brazil, which is a world leader on protecting public health from the tobacco industry. And
vaccines and many more. We are very good at public health, thanks to our united health system.
yeah, and it's just like, why mess with success? I mean, the tobacco industry is spending a lot of money now on, flying these experts in, organizing these campaigns and the PR efforts and the political efforts. And it's just no different than what they've done to oppose clean indoor air laws, to oppose taxes, to oppose warning labels. It's just the standard industry playbook. And it's very important that the policymakers and the people in Brazil resist that, because you're doing a great job right now and you want to keep doing a great job.
And be respected, right? Because we work a lot.
Oh, yeah.
We are not here because of money. We are here because of ethics and public health, because we made a vow. And is it possible that Senator Tronic may pay attention, because she's making deals with the devil? And I have 3 points here. Maybe because she's too confident in what she's done and the good work she's done, and by her team. Maybe because there's some huge hidden interest behind, which I may be baffled, because I always liked her statements as a senator, as a presidency candidate, and her actions against corruptions, her attitude against corruption, maybe not by her, but by her team. And we know that CPI, that is our main investigation about products, about illegal things, where is everyone now? And we don't want any other than the COVID was. It was pretty sad to see how people from the government didn't care about our health, our population health. And third point, she's too naive. She never studied about the industry tactics, and don't know all the serious criminal actions against humanity nicotine products did already for a century. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I can't comment on her personally or the specifics of that situation, because I don't know the details. But all I can tell you is that what I'm seeing happen, if you just look at what you can see, it's just the standard tobacco industry playbook that they have used all over the world for decades. That hearing, I mean, it's in Portuguese, so I don't speak Portuguese, but from reading the summary that you sent me, it's just the standard industry arguments. And you could take e-cigarettes out and put in graphic warning labels, and it would be the same arguments. And I'll bet you, if you went back in time to when the graphic warning labels were being proposed and debated in Brazil, the exact same arguments were being made by the industry. I would bet you a cup of coffee that you would find exactly the same predictions, exactly the same claims, and that if you then looked at, did any of those come true, the answer is no. In a way, the tobacco companies are just not very creative. They just keep using the same arguments over and over and over again. But they're very rich and they're very powerful, and they can work behind the scenes, and all this other stuff is sort of window dressing to try to provide coverage for the politicians to do what they want. And I don't know the specific details of this senator, but it just, in listening to the story and watching it, it's just the same old, same old. I can point to politicians here in California that behaved exactly the same way. and made all the same excuses on other issues.
And their names gets in history as a very sad attitude. That stays forever. So please, Senator Soraya Tronic, I think you're better than that.